surrenders. We've been like this for days. We've been like this for days. So when you said goodbye with a smile on your face, I thought it was as usual. You'll be gone just for a little while. I didn't see it coming, wouldn't believe it. Someone told me that I've been waiting for years. Been waiting for years. Even though we knew like we're far away, far from far away. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let's go back to the beginning. None of us must have a last say. I'm writing you this letter, hoping we can make things clearer. Over all the shouting, we forget to hear each other. And I miss you for days, in so many ways. Even though we knew like we're far away, far from far away. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let's go back to the beginning, the beginning. You and me. Let's go back to the beginning, the beginning. You and me. The beginning. Oh, the beginning. You and me. You and me. Let's go back to the beginning.
Africa at Play with NATO and ETO chairman.
The Confederation of African Athletics, CAA President Mr. Hamad Kalkaba Malbum, talk to us about the state of athletics in Africa as it stands, and what picture are you looking at 5 years later?
Athletics in Africa is strong. We are able to organize our major events in time. Like this year, we will have the under-20 and under-18 African Championship in Nigeria. Next year, we will have the senior in Ghana. In 2027, we will go back to Algeria to organize the under-18 and under-20. And then 2028, we will have the senior championship in Gaborone in Botswana. Well, by this program, we can increase our performance. And at the same time, we are considering the fact that within the British Federation, they are identifying young talent every year within the national program, within the scholarship championship. So the athletics in Africa is in good standard.
Live every Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. Central African Time.
Heartlines with Sheila Ndikumana brings you conversations that touch the soul on Channel Africa.
Sorry, I'm not sorry. I like a rainy boy, you said. Should I try wait, don't stay too far away. Somebody's gonna love me one day, one day. I don't dare wait, don't stay too far away. One day, yeah. Somebody's gonna love me one day. Oh yeah. Somebody's gonna love me one day. Worried, I'm not worried. No, I know the progress. Who wants to talk about whatever and live your life forever? This place, heart has been through much. How come me late? Oh, let go. Shabby, surely, Meroni. Tired of getting it wrong, and this won't be another heartbreak song. Somebody's gonna find me one day. I don't dare wait, don't stay too far away. One day, somebody's gonna love me one day. One day, I don't dare wait, don't stay too far away. One day, yeah. Somebody's gonna love me one day. Oh yeah. Somebody's gonna love me one day. Weight of the world if it's for me to carry. Shabby, surely, Meroni. Ronnie. Tired of getting it wrong. This will be another heartbreak song. Somebody's gonna find me one day. One day. I don't dare wait, don't stay too far away. Somebody's gonna love me one day. One day. I don't dare wait, don't stay too far away. One day. Somebody's gonna love me one day. Somebody's gonna love me one day.
It is 9 minutes after 10 p.m. Central African time. If you've just joined us, thank you so much for choosing us over the rest. This is Channel Africa, and we bring you that African perspective. Listen, Heartlines is in session, but we have to thank the team that was, and that is Innocent Samora standing in for Tshepiso Magwetla on Africa World Hour. Catch him in actual fact tomorrow between 9 and 10 as he keeps you abreast with all things news happening across the continent and the globe at large. So coming up on the show today, we're going to be looking at World Brain Day. That is not today in actual fact. So for the few that were thinking was today, my apologies. It is tomorrow, the 22nd of July. We observe International Brain Day, also known as World Brain Day. It was established by the World Federation of Neurology in 2014 to raise awareness about neurological health, educate the public, and advocate for better prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and research into brain disorders. The conversation has stretched further than that, and I can appreciate that it's not just about the disorders and the instability of the mind, but it's also about progressing forward. And I know that this year's theme is health for all ages. It's empowering individuals, healthcare systems, and policymakers to safeguard neurological well-being across the lifespan. This speaks to the reality of us taking care of our brain. What's interesting is that the gut is also known as part of the brain. The second brain for some, the first. There is a school of thought that argues that the gut is the first brain. Very interesting conversation that altogether. But that's not what we're tackling this evening. This evening, we're going to be looking at the brain, foe or friend. Friend or foe. Is the brain your friend? Is it your enemy? Is it against you? Is it with you? How are we treating and interacting with this thing called brain so that we can sustain our livelihood in all spheres? That is the focus for this evening, and we will be speaking to Julie Ann Hoss, who joins us. She is a psychologist and therapist, and she'll be joining us on the line. We're also going to be wrapping up the stories that have been on, of course, Channel Africa. Highlight a recap of the day that has been with the various shows, and that comes your way in a short bit. For now, we get just a quick breather.
Tune in to Heartlines, where African hearts meet wisdom, healing, and truth. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Hi there. Do you want to elevate your business and give it a voice in South Africa and Africa as a whole? Well, in that case, let Channel Africa make this a possibility. Channel Africa is willing to advertise your business for as little as 30,000 rands or $1,719.18. To get access to these great rates, send all requests to mokoenata@SABC. MOKOENATA@SABC. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
SABC Sport brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Having started on the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2, tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroics that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Channel Africa, where every moment is an African celebration. Feel the energy. Feel the connection. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Boss, I'm not coming to work today. I can't see. No, nothing wrong with my eyes. I just can't see myself coming to work today. Thank you. In other words, I ain't not doing one raw soul today. Don't tell me about work, I out on the road today. Me and some pretty beaches, I out on the boat today. I don't care what time of day it is, I'm drinking rum today. Having fun today. Yeah! Holiday. Today is a holiday. I don't care what nobody say. I'm not going to work today. Holiday. Today is a holiday. I don't care what nobody say. I'm not doing no work today. I'm on the road, yeah. To the beach, yeah. To the club, yeah. Pool party, bus crawl. Uptown, yeah. Downtown. If it's your birthday, turn up. Get drunk till your face get numb. When my crew they come around, drinks up and sing along. Holiday. Today is a holiday. I don't care what nobody say. I'm not going to work today. Holiday. Today is a holiday. I don't care what nobody say. I'm not doing no work today. Yeah, bring the vibes that we pump, and then we drink till we drunk. Pop bottles, you know we. The bar must bust when you see we touching. We drinking, some bad gal we linking. What up thickers, what up slim thing. Same timing, sing along with me if you agree, no man. Holiday, today is a holiday. I don't care what nobody say. I'm not going to work today. Holiday, today is a holiday. I don't care what nobody say. I'm not doing no work today.
Problem Child on this one. This one alongside Just J. King, and this one titled Holiday. It is 16 minutes after 10 p.m. Central African time. Let's rewind and spotlight some of today's standout moments on Channel Africa, because if you missed it, we've got you covered. At Kick, starting off things with Rise and Shine, our morning starter pack, Peter Ndoro, was in conversation with Dr. James Butler, Executive Board Member of the Neurological Association of South Africa. The big headline, over 40% of of dementia cases could actually be prevented? What are we doing to protect our brain health, not just today, but across our lifetime?
Well, the science shows that it's never too late, in fact. So even if you take people with existing dementia who are stimulated in some way, while you don't reverse the dementia, you certainly improve their function in an everyday way. So people who are demented, who don't get out of chairs and walk, etc., that's bad for their brain. If they're left socially isolated, that's bad for their brains. So it's never too late, and whether you're 60 or 70, never too late to start. And the more of the factors you attend to, the better for your brain.
So we read articles that suggest do crossword puzzles and Sudoku and things like that, and that will help prevent dementia. Is there any evidence to show that?
Well, I think the evidence shows that the more you stimulate and educate the brain, the more you are protected against dementia. But I think, like a diet where people focus on single ingredients, the brain is a complex organ and it needs to be stimulated in multiple ways. So clearly, doing Sudokus and crossword puzzles is good for the brain, but that on its own is not is a small little drop in the ocean, as it were.
And then we hit a roadblock with On the Move, where Palisa Tau and Benjamin Mshatama uncorked the conversation around the infamous wine o'clock culture. They were joined by Kerry Rudman from Brain Harmonics, shedding the light on the quiet mental battles that many women are facing behind the glass.
It seems quite luxurious, doesn't it, when we see it on TV and, it says, this is how you relax, you deserve this break. But a glass of wine isn't just a break, it can be much more troubling than we think, right?
Absolutely, it's been made to seem very cool. And if you look at functions where people are not drinking, they're almost belittled where, what's wrong with you? Why? Come on, have a drink. It's such a normal thing. And if you're with the in crowd and you're all drinking and having fun, it is cool. So it was branded that way, and it was made out to be something that, if men can do it, women can do it. And this is the thing that you're supposed to do when you meet people at the end of the day, when you have functions, if you're going out for a business lunch, it doesn't matter what it is, you always get invited for a drink.
Yeah, that is absolutely true.
You always have to revisit also the intention why you are drinking. Is it for social reasons? And even if it's for social reasons, why am I socializing in a way that I have to drink more and more and more and more and more so that I can be in a space whereby I'm with the people that are in my life? What happens if you're not drinking? Are those people going to be in your life as well? Yeah. So there's so many reasons that you have to start investigating why you are drinking. Why do you find yourself in a position where you are having that sip? Because it should be a big decision that you are making. Drinking alcohol, I think we take it very lightly, but I think we should start thinking more and more, especially because we socialize a lot around alcohol and we don't ask ourselves why.
And on the upside, it was a spicy mix on what caught your eye as Tebogo and Mateko reacted to Tyler's bold statement that viral chant, "We Want a Party," is a pure South African groove energy. You be the judge.
Here's what caught my eye this afternoon. You know that phrase, DJ, we wanna party.
Everybody say, DJ, we wanna party.
more, right? Tyler was being interviewed. South African superstar.
Our Tyler.
Grammy Award winning.
Oh, our Tyler.
Yes. That's the same time. She was, it was an interview where she was talking about her upcoming mixtape called We Wanna Party. And in not so many words, she said that the phrase, "We wanna party," actually originated in South Africa. And boy, did it break internet, because now there are people, especially in West Africa, Nigeria, saying, this song has been used, this phrase has been used everywhere, from It originated from the West African region. It's been used in Afro beats, artists like Abu Hema, what. So Tyler mustn't come and say that it originated in South Africa. Don't take my word for it. Here's Tyler saying that we wanna party originated in South Africa.
So We Wanna Party is actually a South African chant. So we've been using it forever, and it's been a thing, for like hyping up people and just that feeling of enjoyment. So I thought it was perfect for the mixtape because the music screams We Wanna Party.
There we go.
And that's a snapshot of the day on Channel Africa. Bold talks, real stories, and powerful truths. Now let's turn inward. Is your mind your friend or your foe? That conversation coming up next.
Heartlines, connecting you with Africa's love culture into the night on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Africa's very own think tank. This is Channel Africa Online. www.channelafrica.co.za.
Hello there, my name is Matsako Musito and I am contributing as co-host on a show called The Upside here on Channel Africa. We are in your company wherever you are on the African region between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. in Central African time.
Hey guys, Tebogo Lekuleni here from the Upside team on Channel Africa, the African perspective. Join us every single weekday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central African time for the ultimate afternoon drive show.
Bringing you lifestyle, news and views and opinion, most importantly, because that matters always, hey? So catch us on air. I, of course, work with the wonderful Tebogo Lekuleni, and we are very happy to be here, so join us.
Africa has a voice, and that voice is Channel Africa. It keeps you in motion, speaking, singing, questioning, rising. Wake up with Rise and Shine 6 till 9. Peter and Asanda as they bring you breaking news, sharp analysis, and the voices that shape the day. At mid-morning, we get on the move with Palisa and Benjamin, digging into the African lifestyle, people, and the things that make Africa smile. 12 till 1, Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, getting in-depth, powerful stories, and the perspective you won't hear anywhere else. The Upside, 1 till 4, live and real, with Tebogo Lekuleni and Matseko Musito. Tamengo Bene talks money, Africa in business, 4 till 5 p.m. 5 till 6, we put on a little bit more color. Vue d'Afrique, with Joël Moteba. We go to East and Central Africa and find Darubinia Africa with I Am Shakif. Madapiri gives us some life. Zochitika, 7 till 8 p.m. Maria Mokumalo comes in 8 till 9. We get some useful knowledge. Kalodiscopia, 9 till 10. We take a look in Africa and beyond. Africa World Hour with Sipiso Makwetla. And we close it up with some love. The Heartlines with Sheila Ndikumana, 10 till 12 p.m. on Channel Africa. Across borders, across time zones, on air, online. This is Channel Africa.
Right, coming up after the news at 9 o'clock, we have On the Move with Palisa and Benjamin. Good morning, Palisa.
Morning, Peter. How are you?
Always fabulous. Thank you very much indeed.
Doing good. Well, let me tell you a story, Peter. If you look, in fact, just outside this window, right, so you can see the street right next to us. There's a street like coming through, a residential street coming this way. Back in varsity, I went to the University of Johannesburg, the Banting Road campus on our right, and there's the Kingsway campus on our left. A friend of mine and I went to the library. We couldn't find the book we wanted, so we walked to the Kingsway campus, to that library. Got there, found what we needed, and then walked down through this residential area. And as we were about to reach like a few meters just before the SABC here where we are, we got mugged by two guys, and we got mugged in front of a group of men doing construction in one of those residential houses. They just watched it happen, and everything happened. The guys took our phones and they ran off, got in a car. Shoot, we're obviously devastated. They went on to do the work that they wanted to do. So we're speaking about, I'm telling you the story because in the first hour of the show, we're speaking about community involvement in addressing personal crises. And we're finding out the question, have you ever witnessed someone in distress and said nothing? Or you were too scared or nonchalant to intervene? So that's the conversation we're having in the first hour of today's show.
Wow. I mean, it's an interesting one. And sadly, especially gender-based violence.
Yeah.
Everybody sees it, everybody hears it, and for some reason, it's a difficult thing for people to intervene. I'm fascinated to hear about that conversation.
Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa has a voice, and that voice is Channel Africa. It keeps you in motion, speaking, singing, questioning, rising. Wake up with Rise and Shine 6 till 9. Peter and Asanda, as they bring you breaking news, sharp analysis, and the voices that shape the day. At mid-morning, we get on the move with Palisa and Benjamin, digging into the African lifestyle, people, and the things that make Africa smile. 12 till 1, Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, getting in-depth, powerful stories, and the perspective you won't hear anywhere else. The Upside, 1 till 4, live and real, with Tepuho Likweleni and Nompumelelo Ngubeni. Tame Ngubeni talks money, Africa in business, 4 till 5 p.m., 5 till 6. We put on a little bit more color. Vue d'Afrique with Joel Moteba. We go to East and Central Africa and find Darubinia Africa.
39 minutes after 10 p.m. Central African time. If you have just joined us, thank you so much for choosing us over the rest. Channel Africa, that African perspective is truly yours when you tune into the station. This is DSTV's 802. If not, 6 to 8 on OpenView HD. Stream us live anywhere you go. www.channelafrica.co.za. Just to give you those songs that we were listening to, Cheche by Zuchu alongside Diamond Platinums, and before that we had DJ Spinel, Wizkid, and Tiwa Savage on that one titled Dis Love. We're going to be getting into a conversation that pertains to the brain. Not today, but tomorrow, the 22nd of July, is observed as Brain Day. In actual fact, World Brain Day. And tonight we turn to a powerful voice who helps us make sense of the noise in our heads. And of course, we have spoken to her before. She's a therapist, a speaker, and in my own personal opinion, an advocate for emotional and cognitive healing. She's here to help us understand the context, firstly, of World Brain Day, but also just looking at whether our enemy serves as a friend or a foe. Sometimes you feel like this brain is just against you. Like, what's going on? Why am I not able to make sense of what it is I am processing at this moment? Why am I feeling what it is I'm feeling? Why can't I get up and do the things I want to do? And Julianne Haas is here to walk us through that conversation. Welcome back, Julianne. Thank you so much for joining us on Heartlines.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely being here again.
Julianne, you look like you're in the summer. I want to talk about that for 10 seconds. Why do you look like you're in the summer?
So I'm from Germany, so I'm visiting my mom or my family for a few weeks. And yes, I'm always picking the cold months in South Africa to go to German summer. And that's why I'm looking like, you can see I'm wearing a shirt.
Absolutely.
And I heard it's cold, and I felt so bad to tell all my friends back home that it's warm where I am.
I think just for the purposes of the show, you're supposed to wear a jacket or something. You know, let us be one and united.
Okay, let me put it on because it's evening now. So. Let me empathize.
Oh, wow.
Let me empathize.
There we go. Thank you so much.
Talking about the brain, you know, the mirror neurons, like we feel with each other. We feel with the other person. So whatever another person is going through, it actually activates our brain functions. So if you are going through the cold winter, it will activate my brain. So now I'm feeling cold with you.
Now that's a thing to think about for a moment there. Something we did not know. Let's start off with looking at your mind as a friend or an enemy, right? Or a frenemy for some. Almost your friend and then turns into your enemy, and then sometimes your friend, but your friend who really doesn't care about you. You know, it's a bit of a tricky step with this thing we call the mind. As a therapist, what do you see most often, specifically with your clients, of course, when they say that they feel like they're fighting their own mind?
Yeah, actually exactly what you just said right now. What I see most often, and I think it's also a little bit the experience people have in our modern day, is a need for control and a need for perfectionism. This idea that people put pressure on themselves to be as good, as perfect, as successful as they can, and through that they struggle to be kind and supportive to themselves. And it's incredibly interesting because whenever I speak to them and I ask them, okay, how would you want your child to grow up, or how would you want your friends to feel in the world, they have all the empathy that you can even imagine. They understand, they want them to feel good, they want them to feel confident, powerful, positive, but when it comes to themselves, I think we're often just ruled by fear, and fear tells us control yourself as good as you can. And I always say we choose safety over happiness. So we always choose the road that we already know, the road that is somehow feels safe and known. And I read something about the brain which is so interesting, that our brain works pretty much like a GPS. It doesn't take the route to where you will feel happiest or most fulfilled or content. It takes the route it knows. Like a GPS will always just go where you go usually, your brain will go down that route. And that's why we often also our own worst enemy, because often what we learn when we are young, first in our families, but then also especially in societies that are very harsh and unequal, or economies that are harsh and unequal like the one we have in South Africa, a lot of young people learn that you have to push. This is a one-shot economy. You have one chance to give your all, neglect your needs, and in that we become this we become hyper focused on controlling what we can do, on trying to be perfect, on giving our best, and neglecting what we actually need. And that continues because the brain forms the patterns and just repeats going them.
Julie Ann, here's a thought, right? You said that we want control, we desire success, and we are fear-driven, if you will, and we sort of stick to what our brains understand. That got me thinking. Are we only exposed to the negative? Because for the most part, it feels like you take the cognitive route that leads to you surviving, you know, the negative stance. You know, if we are to look at that half, the cup empty or half full, we're always going for the half empty. And I want to sort of have a gauge on that. If you're saying that the brain takes the path it knows, is this because we've always been exposed to negativity?
So this is something that we can show very well in psychological research, that we give more emphasis to negative experience, negative news, anything that alerts us. And psychologists have been trying to explain it for many, many years, and I think the most common explanation is that it's kind of like a survival mechanism, that we have to look at what is serious, what is bad, what is a possible threat to us. But now, over time, we also learned how this weighs us down. It weighs us down from a mental health perspective. And that's why we have to actively train ourselves to take a different route. And that's why a lot of people have started things like gratitude journals, because we can show in research that it really helps you to look at what is also going well in your life. And I'm trained in systemic therapy, and we take this approach a lot. Like, what is going well? What do you have in place? What can you be grateful for? And I also always love the work of Brené Brown, where she also says we all have fears, but those that cope well with their fears differentiate themselves by always reminding themselves what they have and what they're grateful for. So whenever you're scared of something, whenever you look at the negative news, then try to remind yourself, oh, but there is so much that is going well. If you're scared to lose someone, remind yourself that you have this person and that it's important that they're in your life. If you're scared that you don't know what the future will bring, remind yourself that you can take some steps to build on the road that you're going for tomorrow. So this is how we need to train our brains, because it tricks us. It really, really tricks us, because cognitive psychology shows us that we look at the negative, we look at the negative news, we give more emphasis to that, and we also more alert, and we also remember negative memories much more than positives. So we need to retrain ourselves to be a little bit happier, I guess.
Julianne, is that the state of the brain, that it would remember the negative most as compared to the positive? And I'm asking this because there is a suggestion in neuropsychology that says that because your brain is always in defense mode, it's always trying to keep you safe, what it will harbor are the things that it believes, the knowledge it believes that will keep you safe. Is that the theory that we're running on?
Yes, that plays a huge part. And I think that is also, when you look, for example, in how we function in relationships, we always have this like protective mechanism on. We have those protectors on. We always try to safeguard ourselves against anything that could go wrong. And that is often how our brain is structured, because we can also show that there's a part of our brain that goes a little bit more automatic, like the limbic brain, which sits at the bottom, and then there is the conscious brain, the the frontal cortex, where you think actively about what you're going to do now. And what we often see, and this is when people use the word trigger, and trigger is often something when you smell something or hear something and you go in this automatic reaction, but people now also use it when our basic underlying beliefs that we carry from childhood become activated, and it feels like we actually have no control over our reactions. So for example, you hear something, you're exposed to something, it reminds you of something hurtful, and immediately you close down. Or you're in a fight and the other person says something like they're going to leave you, and you immediately in defense mode. Or someone criticizes you and you're immediately in defense mode. It often goes through these underlying beliefs that we have, that I need to keep myself safe, the world is a dangerous place, people are against me, and I might not be good enough here. If we believe that, this is more like an automatism. And that's why we train ourselves in therapy to say, pause here, take a deep breath, center yourself, and then ask yourself, how do I want to live? And this is what we often practice with our clients, to say, how do you want to rewrite what you've learned? We also call it rewiring the brain. So instead of going the highway that your brain knows, take a pause, pour some petrol, maybe get a coffee on the side, and then actively ask yourself, thinking about this, what would I do here? And there's a beautiful activity that I actually love it so much because I learned to do it for myself. You know how often when something goes wrong, maybe people look at you another way, or you weren't invited to a certain party, or someone says, no, I need a bit of distance for tonight. And then you immediately think, oh my goodness, they don't like me, they don't want me, something's wrong with me. And then I realized this is kind of like this activated threat in your brain. This is this inner child thinking, oh my God, I'm not good enough for this world. And then if you take a step back and say, I'm an adult now, I can think this through. And there are a million other explanations why the person wants an evening to themselves, or why I wasn't involved, or why I wasn't invited. And if I think about it from my more mature, caring, empathetic adult, then I can actually calm myself down. And what I practice with my clients is we write it on two sides of a page. What do you think? How do you feel? And how do you then react if your inner child, this limbic brain, this automative response goes on and you just protect yourself, versus what do you think and feel and how do you react if you look at it from your wisdom, from your maturity. And it's a very powerful shift. And if you do it often enough, it becomes easier, and that's when you see that your brain is also changing. It's rewiring the brain. That's something really helpful.
Julianne, I want to gauge your theory, right? Because this is something that's also explained, well, to an extent, in the book called Solve for Happy, by Mo Gaudat. And he speaks about this intricate process of thinking through the thing that is bringing you an issue and analyzing that problem and recognizing it for what it is, as opposed to what you've made it out to be in your state of emotions. He also suggests that our state, if we are to be birthed, our state is happy. And what then happens are a series of traumas that we don't heal from because we don't recognize that this is trauma. You know, you can't expect a 2-month-old to be explaining, or a 2-month-old rather, to be explaining to you that they're not happy because this and that happened to them. You know, some of these traumas happened before our cognitive ability could rise and sort of have some kind of comprehension. And so he suggests that when you get into this world, you start off on a happy basis, and trauma keeps...
And on a safe basis.
On a safe base. Oh, that's a really good point. On a safe basis. And then trauma happens, and then your brain starts to be infringed on. And so neuroplasticity is, I suppose he suggests, is the key to fixing that issue. Is that your perceived view as well?
Yeah, because neuroplasticity is the process that you can always change the patterns and the well-known routes or highways in your brain, and that's the process of rewiring. And I think it's very beautiful how you describe it. And one thing I would like to add, if we don't understand what's happening to us as a child, we always fill in the blanks. And usually we fill in the blanks with the worst possible story. That is usually we blame ourselves. So for example, if something bad happens in a family, the parents fight, maybe they even separate for a while, or someone is really sad and no one explains to a child what has happened here, the child will fill in the blanks thinking, I've caused this. Maybe I did something wrong today. Maybe I'm a bad child, and never speak about it. So that then also affects how we think and feel about ourselves. And then I thought about this, and I thought about it like, and actually I feel we do the same as adults. If someone doesn't want us, if someone doesn't contact us, if someone doesn't want to be close to us, we fill in the blanks. And usually our explanation is, well, this means I'm flawed, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of love. And we might never even tell that person or anyone else. And that's how we also repetitively kind of like remind ourselves internally that, well, I guess then it's true that I'm not good enough, or well, then I guess that it's true that the world is not a safe place. And that's how we strengthen those negative or unhealthy habits, these unhealthy patterns in our brain. And those are the ones we need to actively change. And I think also what you were touching on is really checking, also sense checking what is happening to you. And I love that. I practice that with my clients also. When something happens and the first thing you think is, okay, people don't want me, I'm not good enough, I'm a bad person, or maybe I upset them, I offend them. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, hold on, is this true? Can we be sure that this is true here? And then I always say to my clients, what could be the other 100 explanations for this very same situations? And then you still have to ask yourself, is this about me? Because sometimes, it might be true that a person wants to be a little bit far from you or distant from you. Yes, We have some evidence for that. There can be a million explanations other than you being bad or you not being wanted. Maybe they are struggling with something that they are going through. Maybe they feel guilty that they can't do right by you or they can't live up to your expectations. It might not always be about you. So with those questions, it can really be helpful. Is it true? How do we know it's true? What could be the 100 other explanations? Is it actually about me? And then I also like the question to say, and how much of my time and effort and mental load do I want to dedicate to this thought? Because that can go on forever. Do I really want to think about it for that long? Or do I also want to pay attention to other things, other people that are meaningful to me?
The voice of Julianne Hoss joining us this evening. We're talking all things World Brain Day, focusing on the brain as an enemy, your foe, of course, or your friend, your companion, your compadre, if you will. What's the state for you is my question. Find us on WhatsApp +27 6340 69126. Julianne, I keep on thinking to myself, whenever I find myself in a predicament that supersedes my capacity to think good. Yes? So I'm in a situation and all I see is darkness. There's not even a speck of light. I keep on thinking to myself, and this is of course in retrospect, because in that moment you are completely consumed by the negative. You have to calm down, you have to distract yourself, and then come back to the thought process when you are at least a bit more calm about the situation. But I keep on thinking to myself, there has to be something that can be done in that moment. It might not change everything, but at least to halt the process, because sometimes you are so consumed by it. You are so consumed by that feeling. Let's use the example you put out to say that somebody says, I need space from you tonight. Then you feel rejected and nobody wants me. I'm alone. Then you go into that dark cave deep down in the core of the earth, and you keep on filling yourself with all kinds of negative thoughts. And I keep on thinking to myself, how do you stop it apart from distraction? Because sometimes distraction gets toxic because that becomes your crutch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you're saying you're consumed by the feeling, and it's so interesting because actually emotions don't last that long. They don't actually last longer than a few minutes, and you can see that when you watch kids, and they can even sometimes work themselves out of their emotions. So what we are consumed by is the thoughts we have that keep these emotions alive or that entertain those feelings. And when I read up on this and I learned about this theory, it also clicked with me that, I also do that. I get sad over something, and maybe if I would just acknowledge that I'm sad and then continue with my day, it would last a few minutes. But then I fuel it and I think of all of the moments where it made me sad, and I think of the things that were being said in a fight, then I have regrets and I would like to change it. And then it can go on for hours. So you're actually consumed by the thoughts that fuel your feelings, not just by the emotions. And there's a lot that we can do, but for me sometimes it already helps to say, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now. And for me it also helps to say, this might just be a bad day. Maybe I haven't slept enough, maybe I'm just like in a low. I'll try again tomorrow. Because if you take every emotion as a sign that there's something wrong with you, with your relationships, or with your life, and you need those big drastic changes, you will fluctuate with your emotions like nobody's business. And I think a lot of kids who grew up with very, very, very impulsive parents, usually parents who live with addictions are also very impulsive. They know that you go fully into the emotion and fully with whatever emotion is currently going on with your parent, and that is incredibly exhausting. So for me,
Julianne, I believe we are losing you there. That is the voice of Julianne Hoss joining us this evening. If you've just joined us, it is 11 minutes to 11 p.m. Central African time. A beautiful and blessed Monday evening to you and yours this here 21st of July 2025. We are sort of, I don't want to say reflecting, we are sort of stepping into a day that will be, that is World Brain Day. And we're going to be looking at the realities of World Brain Day from this particular perspective, as I know that the Rise and Shine team spoke on World Brain Day, as well as On the Move, looking at features from the, I suppose, the theme for 2025, alongside other facets of the day. We are looking at your brain and the practicalization of using your brain. Is it your friend? Is it your enemy? Do you feel like you're working against your brain? Sometimes you want to do something so bad, but you just feel like all these negative thoughts continue to size you down in effort, in emotion, in reality, in perspective. And so I'd love to hear from you this evening. If you want to remain anonymous, you will remain anonymous. Find us on WhatsApp, send through a voice note or send through a text message. The number is +27 63406 9126. Again, the number +27 63406 9126. Another interesting fact about the brain is that of it being in a state of happy before influence. I found that to be rather intriguing, that when you are birthed, when you are given birth to, your brain is in a state of happy. It honestly is just happy. And then what then happens is that all these experiences begin to taint how it is you feel, how it is you perceive the world. And then from that stance, you then begin to develop these neural pathways that are negative, that don't speak to the goodness of what it is you can experience. Another interesting fact that caught me off guard, and this is by a Caroline Leaf. She is a neurologist. She's from South Africa, based in the States. And she says that 78 to 95% of your lived experiences were firstly thoughts. I was like, Caroline, wait a minute. You're telling me that what I'm experiencing in this world is because I thought about it first? In actual fact, let me get your thoughts. +27 63406 9126.
Africa, voici Abedi.
Oui, c'est moi.
Abedi est un passionné de musique dans l'âme. Il a un goût pour toutes sortes de musique et passe ses journées à écouter Channel Africa.
J'aime beaucoup la musique africaine.
Ok. Devinez quoi? Channel Africa veut aider Abedi et les mélomanes du monde entier à découvrir encore plus de musique incroyable. C'est pourquoi Channel Africa appelle les artistes africains à soumettre leur musique. Chers artistes, n'oubliez pas de nous fournir toutes vos informations pertinentes à l'email adresse musique@channelafrica.co.za. Les soumissions sont votre chance d'être entendues, mais elles ne garantissent pas une playlist. Toutes les soumissions seront soigneusement examinées pour voir si elles répondent aux exigences de notre station. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Heartlines, connecting you with Africa's love culture into the night on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
I am Shakif. Madapiri gives us some life. Zochi Tika, 7 till 8 p.m. Mariamo Kumalo comes in 8 till 9. We get some useful knowledge. Kalodiscopia, 9 till 10. We take a look in Africa and beyond. Africa World Hour with Sipiso Makwetla. And we close it up with some love. The Heartlines with Sheila Ndikumana, 10 till 12 p.m. on Channel Africa. Across borders, across time zones, on air, online. This is Channel Africa.
Hey guys, so it's about 30 minutes before we have to go onto the show and go live, and we're just having our own little briefing session with the team. We've got our producer in the background, Unsako. We've got my amazing co-host, Mateko Mosito.
Also, I'm not amazing.
We've got Unsako that side. And we just, just getting our ducks in a row for the show. Once we go live, there's no turning back. You make mistakes, you make them on air, but we try our best to prepare and ensure that we don't do that when we go on. And when we do, and we laugh about it, guys, we're only human. But this is how it looks like when we're just getting ready for the show. Enjoy. Here we go. Mix. Let's go. Come on. Let the creative juices flow.
The tree, what's at the bottom of it?
The root.
Thank you. If I'm not excited, like I'm just sitting around, I have nothing to do.
Bored.
Thank you. If it's not mist, it's
mist.
Mist. If it's not mist in the morning, you can't see the road. It's like a cloud.
Bright and early in the morning.
Like in the
sometimes your brain experiences.
It rhymes with dog.
fog.
Thank you. I don't know this one.
Which one is this one, guys? Hi,
Very
guys.
fog,
Come on.
this one. What is this? When I'm doing this,
Gun
thank
shooting.
you. Yeah. No. Yeah. You're
Laughing.
so
Funny.
Thank you.
Alright.
Nice and easy,
Good.
clean. Don't forget what caught your eye at 22.
Yes.
And then,
Yes.
yeah, we're good.
Fantastic.
23, my love.
Oh, okay. Show your name on it.
Re kene ka intro ele. Yeah.
Go. Coming to you all the way from the Auckland Park Studios in Johannesburg, South Africa, this glorious Thursday afternoon. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are live on our social media platforms at Channel Africa on Facebook and YouTube. And of course, if you have DSTV, it's 802 OpenView channel 628. Download the SABC Plus app so you can take us with you wherever you go. Good afternoon to you, Mateko. How are you doing this afternoon?
My dearest, I am happy that you got the memo that this show is wearing black today. Our social media specialist is wearing black.
Excellent.
Our madam producer is in black. You are in black. I'm in black. I love it for us.
Black.
All black.
We actually need to do a photo shoot.
And actually,
After the
a
show.
group photo.
group
Yeah,
photo.
with all black everything. Hello there, my name is Matsheko Musito and I am contributing as co-host on a show called The Upside here on Channel Africa. We are in your company wherever you are on the African region between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. in Central African time.
Hey guys, Sheila Ndikumana here from the Upside team on Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Join us every single weekday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central African time for the ultimate afternoon drive show.
Bringing you lifestyle, news and views and opinion, most importantly, because that matters always, hey? So catch us on air. I, of course, work with the wonderful Sheila Ndikumana and we are very happy to be here, so join us.
Africa has a voice, and that voice is Channel Africa. It keeps you in motion, speaking, singing, questioning, rising. Wake up with Rise and Shine 6 till 9. Peter and Asanda as they bring you breaking news, sharp analysis, and the voices that shape the day. At mid-morning, we get on the move with Palisa and Benjamin, digging into the African lifestyle, people, and the things that make Africa smile. 12 till 1, Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, getting in-depth, powerful stories, and the perspective you won't hear anywhere else. The Upside, 1 till 4, live and real, with Sheila Ndikumana and Matsheko Musito. Tamengo Bene talks money, Africa in business, 4 till 5 p.m. 5 till 6, we put on a little bit more color. Vert Afrique.
This is Carrie and Soul alongside Msaki in that one titled Jacaranda. If you've just joined us, welcome to it. Heartlines with Sheila Ndikumana. An hour left before the show comes to an end. We are looking at the realities of World Brain Day that is observed every year on the 22nd of July. That should be tomorrow. tomorrow. It was established by the World Federation of Neurology, and this was done in 2014 to raise awareness about brain health and neurological disorders. Of course, the conversations have extended, they've stepped into our homes, and to further the state of awareness, not just for the matters of neurological disorders or making sure that we don't fall prey to such, is joining us on the line this evening, Julie Ann Haas, who is a therapist, and she's going to help us navigate the realities of just interacting with the brain, making sure that the brain is our friend and not our enemy. Julianne, welcome back to the show. I want to now get into the steps of healing, right? We've talked a lot about how the brain can be against you, and how you can think everything in the world. I do think that you spoke about that cyclic reality not being a set of emotions, but more so a set of thoughts that keep on regurgitating themselves in our minds. So let's talk to the process of healing. What are some of the therapeutic tools that one could use to break free from that cycle of overthinking or fear?
Yeah, definitely. And just one thought I would like to add to that is also with a lot of neurological illnesses, or even when we are on the neurodiverse spectrum, that often what affects us the most is how we make sense of it. So, for example, if someone lives with ADHD, that's just how they perceive the world. That's not a problem per se. What often becomes the problem is that they feel ashamed or not good enough for not processing things the way they should, or not keeping in order with their to-do list the way they should. And even sometimes with depression, what affects people is the depression, of course, but in the long run also that they blame themselves and they think maybe I have caused this. So sometimes just to say, hey, this is something that is happening to me, and I don't have to blame myself is a very important first step. So one thing that I practice in therapy is to say, okay, hold on. You're treating yourself as if what you're struggling with is your fault, is as if you bad. Let's swap this around. If, for example, tomorrow it wasn't a depression, it wasn't anxiety, it wasn't bipolar, but it was, for example, diabetes or cancer, what would be different? And if you think it through, it's so interesting, because then people would say, oh no, that would be completely different, because then I would just look at what would I need to do to help myself, which treatments would be helpful, how could I move forward. But if it's something that is mental health, we don't get to that because we blame ourselves so often. So the first step is really get through that self-blame and get through that self-shame and say, no, these are struggles. This is the human experience. There's nothing wrong with you. And it is more important to say, what do you need right now? How do you support yourself through this experience? That is incredibly important, because I feel very strongly about this, that as long as we feel shame, healing can't start. That's why it's very important to get off or out of that shame box first. Then the next step that you can do is to actually say, what is required now to get through this challenging time? Yes, sometimes your brain doesn't work, or it doesn't help you. It throws curveballs at you. Sometimes there is a certain illness or a dysfunction. Sometimes it is maybe something you first need to learn how your brain functions. What do you need to get through this challenging time? Because it's very important not to ask what's wrong with me, but to say what helps me to understand myself, to make sense of the world, and to work through this. And sometimes this can mean to also reassure and say we are in a state of crisis, or we are in a state of challenge. Don't take this as a sign that it will always be this horrible. Maybe you have a bad day, maybe it's a bad week, maybe you have a phase where you are affected. How do you get through? Then the next step is to really rewire your underlying assumptions. Move away from this belief that you're not good enough, or people don't want you, or the world is a dangerous place. And that's where we activate the more conscious parts of our brain and say, what do I want to believe? And that's where it can be very helpful to always think, what would I say to my best friend? What would I want my child to learn about the world and about themselves? And here it can be very important or very helpful to incorporate mindfulness-based activities or tools like breath work or meditation, also moving your body, because all of that takes you out of those automatic patterns, which are often unhealthy, and gives you a chance to reevaluate and rewire them. And these are just some steps or tools that we can use to really help a person like rewire and establish healthy approaches, more mature approaches to respond to challenges in their lives. And the more you do it, the more it becomes automatic as well. That's the beautiful part about our brain. And what's very important about brain, always ask yourself, what do I want to invite? We are, as people, we are drawn to what we enjoy. So always don't say, I want to be less anxious. Rather say, I want to enjoy my day more. Don't say, I want to worry less. Rather say, I want to learn to be excited about things again. So make it something that you're drawn to, that you can create and invite into your life that is exciting.
Julianne, the first step, getting out of shame.
Yes.
When we think of the brain, I mean, you said that there's this exercise that you practice with your clients where you would ask them, what if this was any other illness or any other thing that was plaguing you, right, outside the way you think? They would treat it differently because I think our perceived view is that that sickness can befall us. However, how I think is part of my identity. It's who
it's my fault. That's what we think.
As. And so how do we need to look at the brain? Because you're telling me that if something is wrong with my brain, then something automatically becomes wrong with who I am. And I think that's the first encounter that maybe needs to be rewired in order for us to understand the part of the brain, its function in our lives. And is it a part of who we are, or is it an expression or a place that sort of gives out the expression of who we are?
Yeah, and I think it's really beautiful to also accept, and it's humbling that oftentimes we can't say it with that much certainty. Take the example of cancer. A lot of people have a predisposition for cancer. There's even a genetic defect that people will get cancer earlier. And then there is, of course, the interaction with our environments, how we live, our behavior patterns, but also the influence of our environments that is out of our control. And all this together determines whether a person will have cancer or not at some point in their lives. And I think it's exactly the same with all of the mental health illnesses or neurological illnesses. There's a predisposition, which is of course genetic, but can also be epigenetic or something that happened while the mother was pregnant or during that time. Then there's of course the lifestyle, there are the external influences, and all of this together defines the probability that someone might be affected or fall ill. But we always think if it's a mental illness or if it's something in the brain, I have brought this upon myself. And that's when people start beating themselves up. And what I found is that it's so incredibly harmful that we throw the ball of guilt around in families. Versus if a person or if a child would have cancer, we come together, we rally together, and we think, what can we do to get through this and to support the child? If someone has a mental health illness or neurological illness, we think, how did this happen? Whose fault is it? How could we have prevented that? What could we have done different? So we often spend more time trying to analyze or beating each other up, either ourselves or our family members, than actually coming to the assistance of this person. And I always ask myself, what would be different in the families if we could just say, this is an illness that has affected all of us. And I practice it with my clients to sometimes even say, what if this was an intruder in your house? What if the illness was an intruder in your house that no one wanted, that no one invited, but no one had control over, but it just happened? And it helps people to make sense of it, and it helps people to find a way out. And let's face it, even research shows that we can't say for certain where mental health or neurological illnesses come from. It is a mix of many factors, but one thing we can say for certain is that it's incredibly unhelpful and unhealthy if you blame yourself or others. The way forward needs to be a way of what helps us to get through this.
Julianne, I want to look at Dr. Caroline Leaf's theory on the brain. She distinguishes the mind and the brain as two separate entities. What's your take on that?
Well, I guess what you were saying is that the brain is our kind of like set up the hardware, and then the mind would be the software. What we've learned, how we think about it, how we've wired it. And I think it's very helpful to think about that, because the hardware is what we get and the software is what we make of it. And that can be also very empowering, because that's when you always have a choice, how you think about it, how you practice your mind, your mindfulness, your approach to life. And that's why I always say, don't judge people based on their first reaction. That's their automatic response based on what they've learned and they've been exposed to very early in life. Let's look at what people do after that, how we pull ourselves back and say, hold on, how do I want to respond here? How do I want to see this? How do I want to train myself to respond to those situations? And I think looking at it in those two ways is very empowering for people, that we can feel, I actually have a choice how I want to go about life.
Julianne, interestingly enough, you have been talking to us about the possibility of unlearning the way we think, these thinking patterns, redirecting neural pathways. Can we get to the extent where we unlearn anxiety responses? And if so, how?
Well, I'm not a believer in unlearning. I'm a believer in relearning. Because I, as people, we're not really good at unlearning or letting things go. Because the more we say, no, don't be anxious, the more anxious we get. Or like there's a joke amongst psychologists where I say, don't think about the pink elephant. And then everyone thinks about the pink elephant, because now so everything that you're trying to fight becomes stronger. So I believe in relearning. So I don't think that we can really unlearn anxiety. What I believe is that we can learn or relearn trust in ourselves, trust in others, trust in the process. So we try to relearn. So instead of saying be less anxious, we would say have hope. Focus on what can go right. Train yourself to do the things that are under your control and trust that the rest will turn out in your favor. Or have faith in yourself that even if things get hard, you will find a way out. So the relearning is very important. That's why we call it the rewiring. That's why we always say, don't just give up something, replace it with a healthy pattern, with a healthy habit. That's what I believe in. And that's incredibly possible. Like, that's totally possible. Our brains are dynamic. We shape them every day. That's the neuroplasticity. Up until old age, our brains are changing every single day. Even memory is more like a Word document that you open and you rewrite and you can edit. There's so much we can do.
The voice of Julianne Haas joining us this evening, therapist, and we are unpacking the possibilities of rewiring the brain for our good. And of course, this is on the advent of World Brain Day that is observed every 22nd of July. And so this will be tomorrow. Send through your questions. Find us on +7 6340 69126. For now, a quick break.
Heartlines. Taking you into the night with love stories, fresh music, and inspiring voices across Africa.
In this episode of Channel Africa Conversations, Peter talks to Dr. Tulisile Buddha, an academic, author, and an expert in indigenous knowledge systems. Join us for a compelling discussion on preserving African languages and traditions in the digital era. Dr. Tulisile unpacks the role of educators, explorers, and how technologies like AI can support cultural preservation, and challenges us to rethink how we honor African heritage. You can find the episode on YouTube, SABC Plus, and on our website, channelafrica.co.za. This episode is a must-listen for educators, creators, and change makers across the continent. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
SABC Sport brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Having started on the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2, tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroics that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Heartlines. Your late night window into Africa's deep conversations.
Hi, I've been listening to the show. I'll remain anonymous. I've been listening to the show and I agree 100% with what Jill is saying, more especially when she talks about how we fill in the blanks with negativity. I am someone who has hopped from one workplace to another because I usually have negative experiences. But now I'm realizing that actually those negative experiences are just fueled by my own thinking, my own brain, So the moment there's tension, the moment there's uncertainty, then I over exaggerate, situations that are happening, and I turn them out to be way negative than they actually are. And as a result, I find myself not enjoying being in a lot of spaces, and that is so true because that's something that I'm actually working on this year.
Heartlines with Sheila Ndikumana brings you conversations that touch the soul on Channel Africa.
16 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African time. If you have just joined us, thank you so much for choosing us over the rest. Heartlines indeed, Sheila Ndikumana. And I'm currently in conversation with Julianne Hoss, who is a therapist. And we are breaking down the concept of relearning for our good, because we are observing World Brain Day tomorrow on the 22nd of July. Julianne, there was a voice note that came in. I don't know if you were able to hear it, from Anonymous, who said that she can relate to filling the blanks with negative thoughts. And this is something that she's working on this year, which is really interesting because it almost seems like we need to do the hard work when we become adults. Is there ever a turning point when we are children? Is there ever an opportunity to reframe the way we think as children?
I think it is, but not from the child. I think that then depends on who's guiding you in this life and in this world. Because as children, face it, when we're very small, we can't even calm ourselves down as baby or toddlers. So it's really about who helps us think through things. But I think, unfortunately, we have this idea that if we don't expose children to challenging thoughts or painful thoughts, they won't feel it, they won't notice it. So that's why I think we often practice silence in parenting, and we leave kids to their own assumptions, which are not always the most helpful or healing ones. And that's why the work often has to happen when we are already adults. Yeah. And I think even when you think about when challenges happen or when a child gets a diagnosis, I think a common one that is given nowadays is ADHD, which might be an uptake in the symptoms, but it might also just be that we've created a life that actually no child is conditioned to enjoy or to sit down for 8 hours. No adult is. So it's to be expected that we also struggle with it. But often also no one really talks the child through what does that mean, or to explain to the child, hey, this is not a problem. This is just how you make sense of the world. How do we create a space and a life that is helpful for you? Is it helpful to take the medication? Is it helpful for you? Or is it not helpful? These would be conversations that actually empower a child to make sense of what is happening to them or what they're struggling with. But we often think, okay, let's not talk about it because that makes it worse. So let's just get rid of the symptoms. And that's not helpful because we know how we are, and kids are the same. We overthink if no one talks to us. So that's why the healing work often happens when we're adults and we notice what has happened.
Julianne, hopefully we as the set generation can, over our own kids, impart knowledge, wisdom, and sort of guide them so that they don't have to do the tedious work that we had to find ourselves practicing in our later stage of growth, of course. I want to continue with the notion of rethinking, or rather relearning, not unlearning. And you said something so beautiful. You said you have to replace this thought. You have to replace something with the next in order for it to fully manifest and for it to find a new neural pathway. How important is body awareness, breath, posture, movement? And I'm asking this because more often than not, when you have those negative thoughts, they're tangible in experience, right? You're sweating, you become angry, you clench up, and I'm thinking to myself, if I'm aware of my body, maybe I can pick up on my bodily symptoms before I know when to snap out of this way of thinking and replace this thought with something else.
Yeah, definitely. And often with clients, I like to do a list of red flags when you notice that you get into those thought patterns where you don't want to get caught up. And it's really helpful to include your body symptoms. How do you notice that you get anxious? How do you notice that you are drowning in self-doubt or imposter? How do you notice that your defense mechanisms are up and you're not really engaging with other people in the world? And it's usually those things that you just mentioned. It's a fast your heart is pacing, you breathing shallow, and it's so interesting because these are all automatic responses. Remember the limbic lower part of the brain. So all of the mindfulness-based activity and the body work helps you to slow down. And that gives you a chance to activate the more conscious parts of your brain, mainly the frontal cortex, which then allows you to decide, how do I want to respond here? How do I want to make sense of this situation? How can I calm myself down? What do I need to do now? And that is the power in the body work, in the mindfulness work, to really say, I've noticed I'm now going into this automatic highway, like I'm just going down the drain, these downward spirals. I can take myself out of them, so I notice it, awareness, okay, I accept it, I don't beat myself up for it, I accept it, and then I can take myself out and take action to change them. This is a very powerful concept of taking those 3 steps. And that's where the body work and the mindfulness comes in. And I'm a firm believer that we have the change is already happening, and that's why I love to work with my clients. Sometimes I even ask my clients, write a letter to your child, even only if it's the child you want to have in the future, how you want them to think and feel about themselves and the world, and then in the session, read it to yourself. And I think we have the possibility to heal and take it forward, because every generation opens a specific door. So it's not about beating up our parents or grandparents, because they did what was possible for them and they opened the doors that they needed to open. And in the context we live in South Africa, they often opened the doors of opportunities or economic access. Especially if you think of the economic structure of apartheid and how those doors were closed for black people. And that was their task. Now the new generation can take it forward and open the doors to actually say, let's support ourselves. Let's not be our enemies. Let's not chase ourselves, but let's be kind to ourselves. And then we will see how the next generation will take it forward. So I don't see it as a fight against something that was done wrong in the past, but rather as a continuation.
Julianne, I want us to go through a practical session, right? I know that 10 minutes is not enough for the caliber of work that you do, but I love the practical element of these things. I think more often than not, we can talk about therapy and someone's like, yeah, but no, not for me, because I don't know what you're saying to me. I don't know what it's going to look like. And on Channel Africa, we have the privilege of being an audio visual station. That means we afford you some visuals. So run us through, let's make it practical, Julianne. I am your patient, Sheila. Right?
Hi, Sheila.
Hi. And
I would call you a client, right? Because
Client.
patient sounds like you're sick.
All right, I am your client, Sheila.
Perfect.
And I have been battling with feeling rejected when people cancel plans on me. Yeah?
Yes.
So a friend will say, "Oh, I have to take a rain check," and I throw a tantrum. But the sad part is these are not things I've communicated with anyone. So I carry the shame of having a tantrum, but I also practice the tantrum. Then I feel entitled to my experience. And then I just go into this whirlwind of pain. And then I don't want to connect with anybody because I feel like, what's the point? They'll cancel on you anyway. Even if you tried to make it an impromptu.
And then you
they'll say
withdraw
no.
even more.
Yes, there we go.
And then you withdraw even more. And you create the experience of rejection for yourself.
Ooh, okay.
Before anyone else can do it.
Okay. So where do we start? Doc?
And first of all, I would say, hey, Sheila, it's incredible. It seems like you're very high on self-reflection. You understand what you're doing very, very well. And I think it's first important to see that that's a huge process. You've come a long way. And that hasn't come from nowhere. You've put in effort to understand and to make sense of it. Unfortunately, the self-awareness alone will not help you to change it. So now we need to take the next step of actually practicing self-compassion and change it. And that's what we can focus on in the session today. And for that, it is often important to say, okay, you feel rejected, and that seems to be a feeling that you know very well.
Yes.
And often it's a feeling that would remind you of something that started way before the example that you've told me just now.
At this point, I can't identify that something.
Okay. All right. So it comes up in those moments, but you're not 100% sure where it's coming from.
Yes, ma'am.
But you would tell yourself that I feel rejected, people don't want me.
Yes. So I know how I feel. And then I did a bit of research and I spoke to a chat bot called ChatGPT. And Dr. ChatGPT told me I feel rejected. And so when I did more research on it, I realized that is how I feel.
And are there any parts in your life or any relationships where that feeling doesn't show up?
For the most part, no.
So it would show up in most relationships and most experiences you have.
Yes, yes. For the moment where someone would say to me, I need to reschedule, I need a rain check, I need a breather, I need some time, I need some space. As long as you're parting away from me, I would feel rejected. I'd even feel rejected if we were hanging together and the hangout session has come to an end and we need to part ways. And I don't understand that either.
And what do you tell yourself in your mind if I could hear yourself talk?
I would get extremely sad and then I would say there's no room for sadness. And then I'd find something else to keep my mind occupied. But I realize that it continues to mount on to the next feeling. And by continue, I mean the one outburst is bigger than the next because I feel like I'm not dealing with the core of the problem.
And you would say yourself, you shouldn't need them. You shouldn't want them.
The less I desire to be in their company, the less pain I'll feel when they say they can't hang with me.
So you'd say, Sheila, the solution to this is to be fully independent.
Absolutely.
And not to care about relationships or people.
Minimalistically, care about a relationship on a budget.
Mm-hmm. But not go all in, not open your heart.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And let's do a thought experiment. Okay? Considering we also have 10 minutes on it. If I would have called you, if we were friends and I would have said, you know what, this is something I'm going through and I can't keep it to myself. I need to speak to someone. listen, I really feel people don't want me, and I feel I shouldn't open up to people anymore. I should be independent, because here are some examples what's been happening. I hang with people and then they told me the other day, no, they need some space. Or there was the other time where I had an appointment with a friend and they rescheduled, and to me it was a sign that they don't want me. And I'm telling you as a friend, like I'm Jules and you Sheila, my friend, how would you comfort me on the phone? What would you say to me?
I would say I'm here for you. If you want to hang out, let's hang out. I can't speak on the next person's experience. I don't know what they're thinking, is the truth. But I'm here if you want to hang out.
Yeah. So you would say, actually, we don't know what they're thinking.
Yes, ma'am.
But there are surely people who want to be with you.
Absolutely. Like me. Maybe I might be busy sometimes, but it's not because I don't want to hang with you. I've got things I need to do.
So you would say, hey, I would really want you to know that this is not always a reflection of how people feel about you.
Yes.
So you're actually walking me through the steps to say, hey, is this actually true? And is this about you? Or is there something else going on?
Yes.
So if you would walk me through the experience, you will help me to check and to rewire. But if you're walking yourself through the experience, you say, Sheila, don't feel, don't have any needs. Just be independent, strong, and move on.
Ironically, that's where I find myself.
And it's very different how you would treat me and how you treat yourself.
Yes.
And what would be different if you could walk yourself through the experience as if you were a friend to yourself?
For the most part, my voice to myself is singular. And in that conversation, I'd maybe in the middle feel silly about it. Just say, stop what you're doing and let's keep it stepping. Be strong.
Be strong. Be strong. Don't have needs. Don't care.
You have needs, but you cater to your own needs.
So it sounds like what you've learned is that you're on your own in this world.
Aren't we all alone?
Well, I guess we're with many other people. The question is how we make sense of it. But it seems like deep inside you, that is something that you walk with every day. The feeling that I'm on my own. People will reject me.
Yes, ma'am.
And this seems to be something that's more like an automatic assumption that you keep on jumping on.
Yes.
Yeah. And that could also be a starting point to write those down and then to see how we want to rewrite them for yourself. Because if we are really all on our own, and if the world is alone, me on the phone, if you were my friend, that I'm here for you.
It's interesting. I think
clearly you would want me to have a different. Yeah, no, nothing is easy in therapy. No, we never, like, just as a disclaimer, we never said it's easy. We just said it's possible.
Absolutely.
But what I would do as a first homework, I would either let you write a letter to your friend, how you would encourage them, or I would just ask you to gather those underlying beliefs, and then we would put them on the wall on like a whiteboard and see how we would want to rewrite them. But no, it's never easy. And in therapy, it's never easy also because a lot of the pain we carry dates back to our childhood, to our primary attachment figures, and it's that automatic limbic lower part of the brain. And that's why it feels so out of our control. And that's why we often feel so disempowered and so helpless in the face of the thoughts and patterns that are weighing us down. So no, it's not easy. It really is hard on people. And at the same time, change is possible. And one exercise I love also with my clients is to say, write down what has already changed the last year. And already the self-understanding, Sheila, that you came into the session with, having that in-depth comprehension of how you respond, of your own patterns. And when you activate your defense mechanisms, is a powerful resource that we can use to start working with. And I'm sure that has already taken you a lot of work. And I'm sure that wasn't easy either.
Julian, I've got a comment coming in of someone who's saying, listen, we need your book, we need your details, we need everything. Where can we find Julian? So before we do get to the simmering point where you do tell us where to find you, Julian, I think for me that if you will, exercise is a reflection I've personally encountered, but I've also seen a number of people struggle with the experience of rejection, and how it then leads to abandonment, and how we then want to be strong and brave. There was a comment that came in that said, I would say that the person who cancelled on me doesn't value my time, you know? And it then becomes a war against a person who's not even warring with you to begin with. This conversation is not twofold. It's just you and your thoughts. And I think it's the most painful thing. So thank you so much for running us through that. I think that was very important, important to witness. Sometimes you don't need to have the conversation. You just need to see that it's possible to change the way you think. And we absolutely appreciate that. Bringing us to that point, Julianne, for those who are asking, do you have a book? Where can they find you?
Unfortunately, not yet. Hopefully soon. I am on Instagram, reflect_with_Julianne, with an E at the end. And also my website, reflectwithjulianne.com. So www.reflectwithjulianne.com. You can also connect with me if you find me on LinkedIn, Julianne Hoss, HOSS. And you have all my contact details. And there are some articles and also guided meditations on my website where I also walk you through some of the processes. Really some of the processes of connecting with self-compassion and also practicing self-awareness or self-reflection, because those two together, I believe, really bring the change.
Julianne, you've definitely brought change onto the show tonight. I believe that anyone who watches and has an opportunity to gauge this conversation will walk out with something. And I truly am grateful to have hosted you this evening.
I'm grateful that you had me. Thank you so much for your time and for your trust. That's also what I love to say to my clients. I always say, you know what, thank you for your trust. That comes very, very hard, and I always appreciate it.
Oh, and just like that, we wrap up the session. Okay, Julianne, that was nice. Thank you a ton. The voice of Julianne
again.
Hoss joining us this evening, and we cannot wait to speak to her again. She is a mind that is just full of wonder, full of beauty, full of wisdom and knowledge. And I absolutely love the comments that were coming in on TikTok. We are live on TikTok. If you want to find us at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa 1, on Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on WhatsApp +27 634069126. If that was a little quick, +27 634069126. We will be taking in some of your commentary. You can find us on those platforms. For now, let's get some music.
Heartlines, 10 p.m. to midnight Central African Time with Sheila Ndikumana.
When the sun goes down, we don't stop the talk. Channel Africa, the best nighttime radio. Joel Muteba. We go to East and Central Africa and find Darubinia Africa with I Am Shakif. Madapiri gives us some life. Zochitika, 7 till 8 p.m. Mariamo Kumalo comes in 8 till 9. We get some useful knowledge. Kalodiscopia, 9 till 10. We take a look in Africa and beyond. Africa World Hour with Sipiso Makwetla. And we close it up with some love. The Heartlines with Sheila Ndikumana, 10 till 12 p.m. on Channel Africa. Across borders, across time zones, on air, online. This is Channel Africa.
Right, coming up after the news at 9 o'clock, we have On the Move with Palisa and Benjamin. Good morning, Palisa.
Morning, Peter. How are you?
Always fabulous. Thank you very much indeed.
Doing good. Well, let me tell you a story, Peter. If you look, in fact, just outside this window, right, you can see the street right next to us. There's a street like coming through, a residential street coming this way. Back in varsity, I went to the University of Johannesburg, the Bunting Road campus on our right, and there's the Kingsway campus on our left. A friend of mine and I went to the library. We couldn't find the book we wanted, so we walked to the Kingsway campus, to that library. Got there, found what we needed, and then walked down through this residential area. And as we were about to reach, like a few meters just before the SABC here where we are, we got mugged by two guys, and we got mugged in front of a group of men doing construction in one of those residential houses. They just watched it happen, and everything happened. The guys took our phones and they ran off, got in a car, shoot. We're obviously devastated. They went on to do the work that they wanted to do. So we're speaking about, I'm telling you the story because in the first hour of the show, we're speaking about community involvement in addressing personal crises. And we're finding out the question, have you ever witnessed someone in distress and said nothing, or you were too scared or nonchalant to intervene? So that's the conversation we're having in the first hour of today's show.
Wow. I mean, it's an interesting one. And sadly, especially gender-based violence.
Yeah.
Everybody sees it, everybody hears it, and for some reason, it's a difficult thing for people to intervene. I'm fascinated to hear about that conversation.
Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa has a voice, and that voice is Channel Africa. It keeps you in motion, speaking, singing, questioning, rising. Wake up with Rise and Shine 6 till 9. Peter and Asanda as they bring you breaking news, sharp analysis, and the voices that shape the day. At mid-morning, we get on the move with Palisa and Benjamin, digging into the African lifestyle, people, and the things that make Africa smile. 12 till 1, Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, getting in-depth, powerful stories, and the perspective you won't hear anywhere else. The Upside, 1 till 4, live and real. with Tepugo Likweleni and Nompumelelo Ngubeni. Tame Ngubeni talks money, Africa in business, 4 till 5 p.m. 5 till 6. We put on a little bit more color. Vue d'Afrique with Joel Moteba. We go to East and Central Africa and find Darubinia Africa with I Am Shakif. Madapiri gives us some life. Zochi Tika, 7 till 8 p.m. Maria Mokumalo comes in 8 till 9. We get some useful knowledge. Kalodiscopia, 9 till 10. We take a look in Africa and beyond. Africa World Hour with Sipiso Makwetla. And we close it up with some love. The Heartlines with Sheila Ndikumana, 10 till 12 p.m. on Channel Africa. Across borders, across time zones, on air, online. This is Channel Africa.
Hey guys, so it's about 30 minutes before we have to go onto the show and go live, and we're just having our own little briefing session with the team. We've got our producer in the background, Unsako. We've got my amazing co-host, Mateko Mosito.
Also, I'm not amazing.
We've got Unsako that side. And we just, just getting our ducks in a row for the show. Once we go live, there's no turning back. We make mistakes, we make them on air, but we try our best to prepare and ensure that we don't do that when we go on. And when we do, we laugh about it, guys. We're only human. But this is how it looks like when we're just getting ready for the show. Enjoy. Here we go. Mix. Let's go. Come on. Let the creative juices flow.
The tree, what's at the bottom of it?
The root.
Thank you. If I'm not excited, like I'm just sitting around, I have nothing to do.
Bored.
Thank you. If it's not mist, it's mist. If it's not mist in the morning, you can't see the road. It's like a cloud.
Bright and early in the morning.
Like
sometimes your brain experiences.
It rhymes with dog. Thank you. I don't know this one.
This one, guys. Hi, guys. Come on.
What is this? When I'm doing this, thank you. Yeah. You're so
funny.
Thank you.
Alright.
Nice and easy, clean. Don't forget what caught your eye at 22.
Yes.
And then, yeah, we're good.
Fantastic.
23, my love.
Oh, okay. Show your name on it.
Rekenika introile. Yeah.
Go. Coming to you all the way from the Auckland Park Studios in Johannesburg, South Africa, this glorious Thursday afternoon. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are live on our social media platforms at Channel Africa on Facebook and YouTube. And of course, if you have DSTV, it's 802 OpenView channel 628. Download the SABC Plus app so you can take us with you wherever you go. Good afternoon to you, Matseko. How are you doing?
Time. Salif Keita coming in with Nene and that one titled 7 Seconds, a beautiful one. In actual fact, not Salif Keita, Yuso Ndor featuring Nene Cherry with 7 Seconds. Before that, a beautiful number came through, Saudi Love. And that song there by Peruzzi alongside Fireboy DML. It is 13 minutes before the show comes to an end. If you've just joined us, thank you so much for choosing us over the rest. This evening, the focal point was World Brain Day. And we were looking at the realities of how we can rewire, rethink, relearn capacities and really create neural pathways that support our existence on this earth. Something beautiful that our guest said this evening, that is Julie Ann Hoss. She said that what's interesting about how we think is that all of that can be rewired. It can be reshaped. If you tend to sort of skid into the negative when it comes to any situation that you're experiencing, you can remodel that. And of course, this with the help of therapy and your own willingness. It's one thing for somebody to advise you to do better. It has to be you who wants to see change. I think that for me is also something I would leave as just a parting shot You must want to see the change before the change comes. And so with that being said, the team and I are going to be bidding you farewell, making way for Morris Touch of the Afro Republic to come through and take over. He keeps you company between midnight and 3 a.m. in Central African time, of course, giving you nothing but the best of African music and helping you gauge the industry for more than just music. I think that's what I enjoy about that show. That is a beautiful number, 3-hour session with Morris Touch. The name of the show, Afro Republic. Again, from the team and I, on technical we had Kathy Maleka, on production we had Nolo Pebetsi, and of course I am Sheila Ndikumana. Until tomorrow, please do take care of yourselves.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
The president of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, Badea, Dr. Sidi Ould Tah, he is vying for the presidency of the African Development Bank, the AFDB. He positions himself as a fervent defender of economic integration and structural transformation on the African continent.
So I do believe that I have a 360 view of the development challenges in the continent with my experience from both the supply side and the demand side. But more importantly, my vision is to bring on board all the stakeholders and to have a holistic approach for the development of the continent and to develop partnership across the continent and outside the continent, bringing all the stakeholders together to work for one goal is to make Africa great for life and livelihood of the African population.
Bringing the African markets into your home. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Heartlines, 10 p.m. to midnight Central African Time with Sheila Ndikumana.
Afternoon.
My dearest, I am happy that you got the memo that this show is wearing black today. Our social media specialist is wearing black.
Excellent.
Our madam producer is in black. You are in black. I'm in black. I love it for us.
Black.
All black.
We actually need to do a photo shoot.
And actually, a group photo.
Group
Yeah.
photo.
Hello there, my name is Matsheko Musito and I am contributing as co-host